In January 2021, the police shut down my personal training business, and like that, my income was gone. At that point, I had a barbell, some plates, and about 3 clients left. This is my story about how I've built not 1, but 2 6-figure fitness businesses since that day. So let's take it back to the very start. And at 15 years old, I was desperate to get into the gym, but the local gym wouldn't let me in unless I was 16. So I had to wait until my 16th birthday, and I actually went to the gym on my 16th birthday. That was the first thing I'd done when I turned 16. And it wasn't much of a workout, it wasn't even much of a gym, but I got started, and that was enough for me. And that was the beginning of all of this for me, really. Changing my habits, changing my lifestyle, and going on to bigger and better things. And over the years, things developed. I got into natural bodybuilding, and I competed multiple times, and I really enjoyed it. I really found a passion for going to the gym, and I found this sort of proof that if I was disciplined, if I'd done the work, that things would happen, things would change, and that's something I carried over into my businesses as well. So I'm very thankful for those early days, the experiences I had, and the things I've done, because without them, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And naturally, that got me thinking about my career, and it got me thinking about what I wanted to do for a living. And I wanted to do something that was like in line with what my passion was. My passion was for training, lifting weights, being in the gym. So I got into personal training, and I'd done my level 2 gym instructor, which was the first step of doing that. And honestly, I sat on that for like 2 or 3 years. Like, I had the qualification, I was ready to move on to the level 3 PT, but there was part of me that didn't want to do it because I just lacked the confidence, which sounds mad really, because considering by this point, I'd been in the gym a number of years, I'd transformed my own body, I'd competed in bodybuilding and placed on bodybuilding shows, and yeah, I had all the credentials to really start this, but I don't know, it was just self-confidence that held me back. I didn't really have the self-confidence to do it, and I was sort of worried about what other people would think, particularly the kind of bodybuilding community, because I was in, I suppose, the circles with people who were a lot more knowledgeable than me, that had been doing it a lot longer than me. I almost didn't feel like I was at a level to do it yet. So I put it off for years until eventually I did do my level 3 PT. I got that, and then it was time to start working. It's time to start working as a PT. So I got myself a job at a local gym. This was just at the weekends. I was still working my Monday to Friday job, but at the weekends I was doing a gym instructor job. So basically just cleaning the gym, doing inductions, just looking after it, all those sort of things. And the plan was to start my personal training business from this gym. Now, when I finally gained the confidence and the courage to actually put myself out there and become a PT, it turns out it was the worst possible time to do that, because little did I know that COVID was about to hit and the gyms were about to get shut down. So I had literally just got started, and yeah, gyms got closed and there was nothing I could do about it. Now, luckily for me, because I still had that Monday to Friday job, I was working for my dad, I was working in his building company, I was able to keep myself going throughout the lockdown. It's not as if I was sitting there with no money in the first lockdown, because essentially, you know, I was still getting paid, which was handy. So it gave me time to work on things. It gave me time to really think about things and think about what direction I wanted to go in and how I wanted to run my fitness business. And without realizing I was doing it, I actually started an online coaching business then, because I wanted to still coach people and people still wanted to get results. So I used that opportunity and I actually took on 10 people for free throughout that lockdown. And only about 2 of them really stuck to it for long enough to get a result, but that was fine. That was enough, because in September, when the gyms reopened, I had these results, I put them out there, and I got an influx of inquiries just in time for getting back into the gym. That was back in the days where you could just put out a result and you did get a lot of inquiries. Nowadays, when you put out results, there's so many of them out there, and there's like things like AI, for example, where people aren't really sure whether your results are actually legit or not. When they see them, people could just put them into like ChatGPT or something like that for all they know. I feel like results don't have that same bearing anymore. You don't get the same buy-in from just simply posting a result anymore, which says a lot about the landscape of it nowadays, but back then you could, and it helped me build up that initial kind of influx of personal training clients. And I got to the stage I had enough clients that I could quit my job with my dad, and then I could start working for myself and go into being self-employed. And things ran pretty well from roundabout, it was September, the gyms reopened, until December. It was late December when they decided to close the gyms again because of a spike in COVID cases. So when that happened, I was a bit devastated, because obviously I just built up this business, I just got to a good point with it, and you know, they were telling me all of a sudden you can't do your job. I mean, personal training, like how much of a bad thing is that during a time where people are trying to look after their health? But anyway, me being me, I don't mind bending the rules, and I thought, you know what, as long as my clients are happy to come in. I was working out of a private studio at the time as well, so it was just me and the client that were in there. I was like, I'm going to keep going. and I did. I kept going through the lockdown at the end of December into January, and that was all going really well for about 5 days until someone had seen people going into the studio. They phoned the police and reported me to the police. So one day I was doing a session with one of my clients, and the client just left the studio, got in his car, came out and just left the studio, and the police appeared and they seen the client walking out and they shut me down. That was it. Like, my business that I'd built up, that I'd put everything into, I'd quit my job for, it was shut down. I had no clients anymore, I had no income, and I had no idea what to do. And to make things even more interesting, I had a 6-month-old baby at home as well. So I had to worry about putting food on the table and looking after her too. So what could I do to keep things going? This is where like resilience comes into building businesses, because like, so what could I do? A lot of people in this position would probably just down tools and give up. And it'd be easy to get into that mindset because again, I was raging. I wasn't happy because I'd put all this work into something and all of a sudden it was just gone like that. So again, this is where resilience comes into building a business, because like building a business, like building a body, you just need to keep going and be consistent with it no matter what. And if something comes up like this, you just need to pivot and find another way to do it. And for me, that option was my shed. And I was like, right, well, if I can get enough clients that are happy to do so, I can get hold of a barbell and some plates, then I can keep this thing going. I can keep things moving and keep making enough money just to keep me ticking over until the gyms reopen. And I phoned up and inquired about getting a barbell and some plates to a company that I knew, and the price of them was extortionate. Like, bear in mind, this was in the middle of a lockdown, so I wasn't the only person trying to get equipment. And if anyone remembers like the first lockdown, the price of like barbells and plates and any gym equipment, it just went absolutely through the roof. And without putting a figure on it, basically the price of this barbell and the plates were the exact amount of money that I had in savings. It was all the savings I had at that time, all that I had to fall back on. So this felt like a huge risk. And I remember like the day that I pulled the trigger on it, it was snowy, I was out walking the dogs with my wife and our kid, and the whole day I just kind of paced around thinking, have I done the right thing? I've spent all the savings we've got, this is it. If this doesn't work, we are fucked. We've got nothing. And I spent that money on a barbell and 2 20 kilo plates per side, so 4 20 kilo plates. I think I've got a couple of 10s as well. And that was it. Okay, that was all I had to train these clients. I had to hope that my clients were going to go for this as well, which thankfully for me, 2 or 3 of them did. And that was enough to keep me going throughout that period. So I trained them in the shed, in the freezing cold, with that barbell. And anyone that comes to my gym nowadays, that barbell and those plates are all 5 of them, if you want to call it that. There's 4 20 kilo plates, sorry, and a barbell. They're all still in this gym and are all still being used to this day. So fair to say I got my money's worth out of them in the end up, but at the time, it felt like a huge risk. And if I didn't have those clients who were willing to still come see me in the snow, in my shed, in the freezing cold, and do a workout with a barbell and some plates, then I wouldn't be where I am today. So again, if you're one of those clients, thank you, because you kept me going throughout that period. And yeah, I'm going to put some pictures up on the screen as well. I'll show you guys the shed. I've got a picture of the shed with the setup. I did eventually invest in some more kit. I managed to get like a one up, one down pulley. So basically you put the plates on one side of the pulley and then you put your attachment on the other side of the pulley. It wasn't the best, but I put it through the rafters of my shed roof and it held up. It was fine. But that was when I first got my experience of pulley systems, which I'm not going to go into. But basically, when you've got one cable going up and one cable going down, it's pretty fucking heavy, okay? It's a 1-to-1 ratio, it's pretty heavy. And we learned that the hard way using that gym. But yeah, that was it. That was what kept me going. And that was what got me to where I am today, because I was resilient through that period where it felt like nothing was going to work, where it felt like I was taking a huge risk. I had to take that risk and it's paid off. So at that point, obviously, I didn't even have one 6-figure fitness business at that point. I wasn't making a lot of money at that point. I literally was just surviving. I was just getting by. And at that point as well, I was also like heavily educating myself. I'd actually enrolled myself in a course not long after like the first lockdown, when I got that initial influx of clients. I put a lot of that money towards education as well. So hence the low amount of savings, because I spent a lot of it in education. I was still doing this course at that time. And again, that was something that probably helped pull me through. We had weekly kind of group calls on that, and it was very, very useful. But I spent a lot of money educating myself. I wasn't making a lot of money. And how did I then take that from, you know, being in that position where I'm a PT just getting by to again owning both of these 6-figure fitness businesses? Again, as I say, at the beginning, I heavily invested in my education. And I didn't just do that year. I'd done it for well, basically up until this point. This year, 2026, is the first year that I haven't actually spent a massive amount on my education. I'm still getting mentoring of some sorts, but I've not done like courses or things like that. And one thing I will say is, like, if you want to get somewhere faster, then educating yourself on whatever it is you're doing, absolutely, you've got to know your shit, but also hiring mentors that have been there and done that and can give you advice on how to get there quicker. You know, like, it's like when someone works with me as a coach, you're not just paying for a nutrition plan and a training plan. You're paying for, or accountability as well, of course, but you're paying for my advice on where I've went wrong, all the trial and error I've done, and I'm helping you skip all that trial and error so that you can get to the next level quicker, okay? So mentoring's the same thing, like when it comes to people helping you out with business, marketing, you know, any of that kind of stuff. Like, I would not be where I am today without heavily investing in courses and mentors. I would absolutely recommend anyone to do that if you're starting out in any business. So yeah, essentially I just got back to the studio after that, and I just worked my ass off, to be honest. Like, you know, I'd usually do 3 PTs in the morning, and then I would try and do 3 at night. On an ideal day, that's the way I would do it, sort of split shift, and then in between I would do any online coaching work. So I did have a little bit of online clients at that point, nothing massive, any program updates, do my own training, and that would be my days. You know, it'd be long days, and sometimes I'd be working between 2 gyms as well, which made things a little awkward, but you know, you just done what you had to do, because I trained at one of the gyms, and one of them was just a studio. So naturally, the gym that I trained at, I did pick up clients through there. So it was like trying to balance both of them wasn't easy. And to make things even more exciting, I decided in 2023 to do another bodybuilding prep, which again, great from the business point of view, because people follow along with your journey. They can see that you're making progress and you're leading from the front. So I think that obviously helps as well. But yeah, like I basically just got out there, done the work, got results, and done it consistently for years. And over time, my fitness business just grew. My coaching business just grew. I never at any point really had a massive influx of clients. It was always just steady, you know, like across the year, if I was up like 1 net client per month, you know, that would be 12 clients in a year. And like, I went from, you know, doing like, you know, maybe like at peak, I'd done 40 hours of PT a week. Definitely wasn't for me. I kind of pulled that back to 30 and then started building online. And then, you know, I started off with like, you know, 2 or 3 online clients. And then over the years, I've built that up to, at my peak, I was at 70. I'm not too far off that in a minute, but I was at 70 online clients, and that's like 1-to-1 online clients. That doesn't even include our groups as well. We've ran groups of like 40 people on Elevate at one time. The most we've actually had on Elevate at one time has been 70 people. That was our biggest intake. So there's been times where within my business, there's been well over 100 clients at one time. So, you know, I went from, as I say, you know, just doing PTs, having like, if during that lockdown, during the period of training the shed, having like 3 clients to over 100 clients. But I never done anything spectacular to get there. I never invested heavily in like ads or anything like that. I never mucked about with that kind of thing. I just educated myself, I hired mentors, I'd done the work, I was consistent, I was disciplined, and I'd done it for years, and I'm still doing it to this very day. So anyone looking for a quick fix, I've not got it for you. I've just got the consistency, just what I learned from bodybuilding: consistency, discipline, hard work, and eventually results come. Now again, it's 2026 when I'm making this video, so the build up from 3 clients to, you know, over 100, you know, it took like 5 years. It took a long time. I would say a relatively short period of time in terms of business, but a long time in terms of most people's time frames. And round about the end of 2023, that's when the opportunity came up to open a second fitness business. So I was working out of that studio that I talked about, and you know, I was paying a lot of money in rent there. As you do as a PT, no matter where you are, you're going to be paying some sort of rent usually. And that's something actually with my gym that I've actually abolished, because it makes it harder for the PT, but that's another story for another video. The opportunity came up to open up my own space, and the idea was to open it up as a PT studio. It was the right place, the right time, the right price. And all I was going to do is open up the studio, and I was going to move like at that point it was maybe, so I'd went from 40 to 30 to 20 PT sessions per week as I built online. So I had like 20 PT sessions per week, and like at that point 40 online clients. So like I had a decent kind of setup between the two. And the idea was I would then move into this premises, and it would be a PT studio. I would coach my clients from there. That was the idea, and I was just saving on rent. But as I developed the studio, like the demand for a gym just grew. People were asking for memberships, people were asking about that sort of thing. So we never even opened as a PT studio. We just opened as a gym in the January. We decided, right, we're just going to open as a gym. We're going to take on 50 members. It was like a semi-private sort of gym. That was the idea. Take on 50 members and we're going to run at that. We're going to see what happens. And it turns out 50 people isn't that much when it comes to a gym. It was a small space, don't get me wrong, it's like 120 square meters. But I don't know, I must have had it in my head that all 50 of them were going to come at once, and they didn't, obviously. So we then started to up that, and gradually over the course of a couple of years, we built that up to 150 members in that space, which was great. But we'd outgrown it really. When we were at kind of peak times, you had, maybe 15 people in there at once, it was starting to feel a bit busy, it was starting to feel like you didn't have room to move. So we looked for another place to host our gym, another facility. And we found the building that we're in now on Montrose Road. We found the gym there. And this is like an old church building, but it needed a lot of work. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into here. No idea. I think, being naive here was probably a really good thing, but I had no idea what I was getting myself into. There was a 9-month battle to get planning permission. Turns out I didn't even know you had to get this, but you had to get planning permission to change the use of a building from what it was, a workshop, to a gym facility. So 9 months to get planning, a load of conditions on the planning too that ended up costing a lot of money, like the likes of soundproofing and things like that. And then I thought I was in the clear at that point, and little did I know building warrants were a thing. Well, I knew building warrants were a thing, but I just didn't know much about how they actually worked. And we applied for a building warrant, and it took 13 months to get that approved. 13 months it took, and we are still going through bits from that right now. And this is now, what will that be, 17 months on, I think. So the process is not quick. It does not help businesses. In fact, it slows down businesses. And if I didn't have the existing gym running around the corner at the time, then I would not have been able to do what I've done in this gym, because I would have ran out of money and ran out of time. But thankfully I did have that run, and I managed to get things going. So after spending, again, 6 figures on this place to get it up and running, develop it to the gym it is, we then moved into here, and now we've upped our membership to 200. So again, we're still semi-private. It's still not a massive space. We have got an upstairs area that we're looking to develop in the future, so it will be a bigger space then. But yeah, we have we've now moved into here, and now we've got the gym with 200 members. Again, none of this has happened quick. None of this has been the result of doing anything in particular apart from being relentless, being consistent, and being good at what I do. That is all it's been. So for anyone out there watching this, again, stop looking for quick fixes. Just focus on doing the shit you've got to do day in, day out, whether you feel like it or not. Just keep turning up, because that's all I've ever done, and it's worked, and it's going to keep working into the future. So where am I at now? Again, sitting not far under 70 clients with my online coaching. I'm sitting higher than I'd be comfortable with, to be honest. We're sitting at 67, which I am trying to not bring down, but at least keep the same, because I honestly just don't have the capacity to coach any more people. We've got a gym with 200 members, and we've got a waiting list that is pretty damn full. So the minute someone leaves the gym, it'll be one out, one in. It's the same with coaching. We're just doing one out, one in with both of them right now, just running them both at sort of capacity. Does the gym have capacity for more members? Maybe once we do the upstairs space, but right now things are just rolling as it is. I'm taking a breather to kind of try and figure out how best to run these two things the way they are, and who knows what the future holds. But going back to the beginning, again, from a young guy who didn't have the confidence to even start his own PT business, it's amazing what just being ballsy, taking a risk, and just getting shit done could do. So if you're watching this and this is you, no matter what you do, just fucking go for it. Don't worry about what anyone else thinks. Don't worry about if you're shit at the start. You will be shit at the start, but the only way to get better is just to do it. Just to go out there, get the experience, and get it done. So yeah, hopefully my story has influenced some of you guys, and if anyone wants to know more about any specifics, feel free to drop me a message. And before we sign off, I am not sitting here claiming to be some guru, not claiming to be some sort of business mentor or anyone that knows better than anyone else. All I'm doing is telling you my story and telling you my experiences. And again, throughout my coaching business, that's all I've ever done, is just help people get through what I've been through and, get out the other end and get a result quicker than what I did.